Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. If you are okay with that, we could wait for another minute or two because we still have registered participants that didn't show up, so maybe to give them a minute or two more. Thanks. Okay. Good morning, everyone. One more time. I think most of the registered participants are now online with us, joined the masterclass, so we can start. If someone joins afterwards, that's also completely fine. So I hope you all hear me well. First thing first, most important, you can write us in chat. So if someone have some technical issues or any kind of questions, please you can write in the chat. My name is Tarek. I work as a project coordinator at Media Center Sarajevo, and I want to thank you all for interest and for joining this masterclass on OSINT tools and practices with Andrej Petrovski. Kristina Radović has raised hand. Christina, if you could write us to the chat, that would be much easier because there's a lot of us. So in the meantime, I'll continue. So we are talking today. Andrej will talk with us about kind of journalism, OSINT tools and practices that are very important for investigative journalism, but also for a wider circle of journalism. And I think it will be very interesting and very useful for all of you. Those who didn't know about Andrej before, I believe they read the biography I sent. So I don't think there's much need for introduction for that kind of introduction. I would also like to say that this masterclass is a part of a project that Media Center Sarajevo is implementing together with regional partners, with media institutes from Montenegro, from North Macedonia, Albania, and with Novi Sad School of Journalism. So I want to thank to my partners. They are all probably here. This is one of the many activities we've done under this project. The project is actually about raising capacities of media and journalism on reporting on a foreign influence, but this day is something that will certainly be very important and useful for a wider circle of journalists. So that's why we shared this call to wider circle of people. Thank you one more time. I won't take any longer. Andrej, you can start. I would just like to say that as in the beginning, you can write any questions in the chat. If someone insists, you can raise your hand and ask to speak. We will turn on your mic. We will have this first part with Andrej, his presentation, showcase, and then afterwards Q&A part. But I believe that Andrej won't mind if someone insists to interrupt him, if you want to ask some questions about a thing that Andrej is talking about in the moment, please be free. Here with us is also my colleague Maya from Media Center, and she will also help you with this logistic and technical stuff if needed. Thank you all. Andrej, thank you too, and please, you can start.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure. Thanks to the Media Center in Sarajevo for inviting me to speak on this important topic. I'm Andrej. I am the Director of Technology at the Share Foundation. I'm based in Belgrade, but Share operates on a broader scale, not just in Serbia, but in the region as well. So there might have been a chance that some of my colleagues have worked with you in the past. We have been quite active in the media sphere, especially in different capacity building initiatives related to investigative media, investigative journalists, activists, and different types of human rights defenders. As Tariq said, I don't mind being asked at any stage, so feel free to either write in the chat, even though I'm not sure that I'm looking at the chat. So I kindly ask the crew from Media Center Sarajevo to nudge me if there is a question in the chat that I have not seen. Yes. As I mentioned, Share Foundation is a Belgrade-based digital rights organization. We exist for over 12 years now. So we've been active in different fields. One of our streams is obviously research, which in its own right does include concepts that are similar or that are from the family of OSINT tools and techniques. When it comes to this session today, we are going to be talking about few different aspects of OSINT. First, a very broad introduction into what OSINT is and what kind of techniques can be considered open source intelligence techniques. Then how to prepare your system to use these tools and techniques, your browser, some legal and ethical concerns, because sometimes it feels very blurry what you are allowed to do and what you're not. And of course, we'll have a Q&A. This is not the entire presentation. I have a few separate sections because I also wanted to touch upon cybersecurity while using OSINT, and I'm sure that all of you have been in different sorts of cybersecurity training, but a very brief reminder of the most important issues related to cybersecurity are always, I think, useful. I can apparently see the chat, so yeah, it should work fine. And then, as I said, once again, questions are welcome at any time. I don't really like to speak for 2 hours without any sort of interruption, so to say. So I do encourage you discuss and ask questions.
We will also, Andrej will also nudge you if someone asks anything, so
good.
You don't have to focus on chat. Thanks.
Yeah. So just a very brief start or intro to OSINT. OSINT is very tied to the development of the internet as a technology, because OSINT really relies on a lot of data and information that are found on the internet. And I am not just speaking about user-generated information or data. I'm also speaking about metadata or behavioral data that users by default create on the internet. So this chart is super interesting for me because it shows what happens online every single minute, basically. This is from 2023. I don't know if the 2024 is out yet because they have it every year. And as you can see here, all these things happen in a minute. So and there is so many tweets, there is so many Instagram posts or viewed stories, there is so many emojis sent, visits to ChatGPT, emails sent, etc. So the internet is massive in terms of the amount of data it contains and the amount of data that we generate on the internet as users, basically. And that brings us to the concept of how this data can be used or analyzed or processed or understood from very different perspectives, with the goal in this case to investigate some social or political phenomenon like corruption, like abuse of power, like different sorts of illegal activities like drug trafficking, human trafficking, etc. We have worked with journalists in the past in all kinds of examples, from like detecting alt-right or far-right narratives to basically researching or investigating cigarette smuggling businesses in the region, etc. So all these investigations, to some part, of course, it was not the only part of the investigation, did rely on some internet generated or internet based data. So open source intelligence is intelligence gathered from publicly available sources, meaning we are not doing anything that grants us some special kind of privilege to have, like, I don't know, backside view of any platform or have any communication with the platform whatsoever. Like, for example, the law enforcement the police can send a request to big platforms and then ask for data directly. We as citizens or journalists don't have this possibility, so we have to rely on basically understanding data that is already there in public, but there are, of course, ways to do it. The term data in this context refers to raw facts and figures found on the internet, such as text, images, video, statistics, etc. And a piece of data can be the number 25, for example, and that number doesn't mean a lot it can mean a lot of things, and yet it means nothing concretely. But in order to take the number of 25 and give it some context, for example, say 25 and then degrees Celsius, then you know that we're speaking about a temperature of 25 degrees, and then that becomes an information. It's not just a piece of data, the number 25, but it's 25 degrees. It's sort of information. Then if we add to that 25 degrees Celsius, Belgrade, Serbia, then we have basically a more detailed information, sort of analysis that basically gives us a more precise determination on what we are talking about. In this case, we're talking that in Belgrade, Serbia, it is 25 degrees Celsius. So that's basically represented on the graph here. We have operational environment, we collect data, and then that data is processed and exfoliated with information, and then on that information we can do analytics. For example, if we gather the temperature in Belgrade every day in a year, then we can make some sort of a more detailed understanding of how the weather in Belgrade works. This is a very basic example that I want to use to showcase, and that brings us to what intelligence is in this context. Intelligence is processed data that has been analyzed and turned into meaningful information that can be used for informed decisions. Because now, if we know the way weather works in Belgrade, or if we have it over, I don't know, the past 100 years, we can measure different kind of trends and understand things that are happening. For example, global warming, or the amount of rain that it falls, or what's the best season for agriculture, or different works in agriculture, or what's the best season to have a wedding, or to organize a concert, etc. So these data transformed, or basically enriched with some additional details and analyzed over some period of time, or some amount of data, can help us make understandable, logical or understandable decisions, like informed decisions. Then data as such is increasingly produced. So we as users online produce immense amount of data. Of course, we are probably not, or human beings or natural beings are not the most relevant probably subject of investigation, but also companies and important people in companies as well create also a lot of data that can be used to analyze in different ways. Politicians as well, or different people in power, their data is also out there in some capacity. The digital nature of modern data and its implications, of course, we have many concerns around surveillance and how this our digital footprint, you have heard, I believe, of the term digital footprint, basically what we leave behind while using the internet, can be often perceived as a way of us being surveilled. And it is that, I mean, surveillance capitalism is a very much realistic concept that we live in nowadays, and this connection between the state and corporate actors to basically make use of our data is very viable and realistic. But also the global data accessibility from a local perspective is something that has changed tremendously with the use of the internet, because nowadays even we from the Balkans can look up data or look at information from all around the globe and basically research topics or issues that we were not able to do as comfortably even 20-30 years ago. For example, I don't know, a global crime, like international crime or global drug trafficking or global human trafficking, these practices were not as easy to track before, or arms deals and things that are sold in very faraway places from our perspective. Now it's much easier to basically tap into this, but of course we are also more exposed. New data types and sources, especially with artificial intelligence, the use of different huge data sets for training purposes of different algorithms, and then machine learning models, and then artificial intelligence. In the end, it has basically created secondary or tertiary types of data that are all around. That does not mean that we can use them as such, but they exist. Availability of computing power and digital tools. Our devices are nowadays much more stronger than they used to be in the past. So that means that our capability of analyzing or of meaningfully analyzing data and gathering intelligence it's much bigger than what it used to be before. And then we come into the use cases of OSINT. So what can we use OSINT for? And it's basically two major components. One is research, and the other one is validation. And they're somewhat similar. They're actually very similar, with the main difference of what's the purpose of data collection. When it comes to research, the main goal is to collect unknown data about whatever, events, people, company, phenomena, trends, etc. of interest. And then we have the following three main questions. What can we find about this specific subject that we're trying to research or investigate? Who is connected to whom, or what are the connections? Who is being a particular, a network of people? Where was this person at a specific moment of time? But these are almost always like open-ended questions that can, have broader answers, and like we like to gather all the possible information around the particular subject. The second scenario or second use case is verification, or confirming the accuracy of already known data. Basically, something that we know from a different, let's say, situation, or we have a source that has told us something, which is basically sort of a fact-checking technique. And then we have the more, let's say, concrete question: was the person really at that place at that time? It's a basically yes and no question. Are the data they present accurate and complete? Do they frequently publish content on that topic? Are they competent? Can you find other data about them and cross-reference? So this is basically the fact-checking component of OSINT. But both scenarios are very useful, and the techniques that we use in order to achieve either one or the other goal, it's basically all the same. Now, when we prepare our system to basically start engaging into open source intelligence, especially for most of investigative journalists, they only use one device, especially individual journalists. They don't have the resources to have like 10 different devices for different purposes. Of course, there are many alternatives we can accept for having a special computer that you use for OSINT. You can also use virtual machines, secure cloud browsers, etc. And of course, you need some assets, you need some budget, some skills, and also it's great to have a team, because when you work together, it's much easier and much, let's say, much better in a way, much more efficient to perform more complex investigations. Tech savviness is also a requirement. You have to be able to use technology and to learn how to use technology, which is probably the more important part before engaging into practical work with OSINT. Browser, it's also super important, especially because OSINT relies a lot on different sorts of extensions, add-ons, etc. So probably Safari won't be the best browser for you to do OSINT, or Internet Explorer as well, but the two most common ones that are being used are Firefox and Chrome, because they have the biggest marketplaces where you can download additional add-ons that can be used. Some of them we'll touch upon very soon. For example, Exiviewer, which is a photo metadata tool that can basically extract information about where the photo was taken, what was the device used to take the photo, etc. HTTPS server, it's a security feature, basically to allow you to establish a secure connection, or we're going to be talking about security a bit later. User agent switcher to mask your digital identity. So even though that you're accessing a website from, I don't know, Lenovo laptop, to make it look like you're accessing from an iPhone or an iPad or a Xiaomi tablet or whatever. Location guard basically hides your location. Revi, it's reverse image search. So basically, you put an image. You already have this on Google Images nowadays, on Yandex Images, etc. Copyfish for OCR is basically to extract any text from a picture, especially in a language that you don't know, and translate it to your language of preference. Legal dilemmas. Basically understanding data protection regulation, most notably the GDPR, and protection of personal data. Of course, there are many exceptions when it comes to journalistic work. So you're not really obliged to abide by the GDPR. I mean, you're obliged to abide, but you're not obliged to implement all these restrictions when you work as a with a journalist. But there are, of course, lines and considerations that you should have before engaging into an investigative process. And of course, it's always good to have a conversation with a lawyer before you do anything, or at least before you publish the story, because that can make you open to slaps or different kind of legal processes that can basically sabotage your further work. It's always good to have a consultation with a lawyer that first and foremost understands data protection, but also other aspects of I don't know, copyright, defamation, etc., so that you make sure that you're all set to publish. We have examples in Serbia. I know that Krik is probably the on the top of the list of slaps so far. They basically get sued for whatever they publish, no matter whether it's founded or not founded. But that means that their team is, I think that they had to basically hire a specific person to deal with slaps. And that basically burdens their work and their budget, of course. So legal considerations are super important. Ethical dilemmas, of course, I'm not going to be teaching you on journalistic work. You all know that much better than I do. I just put this slide here just to have a very brief consideration. That like anything else that you do in your work as a journalist, you have to be very mindful of the ethical standards that journalism and investigative journalism have in this day and age. So that's just it. Do we have any questions so far? It's either everything's super clear or nothing's clear. So I don't know. Yeah, I just wanted to show you a few of the tools. Maybe not go. Let me see. Just give me a second. Can you see my screen or no? Can someone confirm if you can see my screen?
All good.
Okay. Just a second. Okay. Yeah, so this is online Exiviewer. If I put this picture of my dog here, yeah, these are two dogs that I really love. You can see all the data surrounding this image, that it was taken with an iPhone 12 Pro Max, the location where the picture was taken, and some other kind of details related to the picture, whether it was the directly photographed image or it was basically edited afterwards, if it was what were the settings what were the settings of the camera, what's the altitude, longitude, etc. So this can be super useful. I use the dog picture, of course, but if you come into a possession of a source sending you a picture from some space or some place that he or she has attested something and they're sending you a picture as sort of a proof that something happened at some place, then this is a way for you to verify some of the information. This only works if the picture is taken and sent to you as a file. So if it's uploaded to a platform, then most platforms basically erase all the metadata and don't share this with you. HTTPS everywhere. Is it clear how it works? Do you have any questions around this? Okay, HTTPS everywhere. I'm not going to go into too many details about that. It's basically related to SSL protocol. It's super easy to download if you want to download it, but nowadays most browsers actually implement it by default. Here, what I had next, user agent switcher. Yeah, this is a plugin for Chrome. I won't install it here on Safari now because I think I mentioned to you how it works. It's basically a tool that allows you to choose here what kind of browser that you want to be. For example, I'm now on my Mac, and then I can choose to be Internet Explorer or Mozilla, or the kind of device that I want to use, or the operating system that I want for the internet to see that I'm using. And by this, I'm protecting basically my own identity and the activity that I'm doing. Because, for example, if you're doing some sort of research on a website or on a server that is owned by the subject that you're investigating of a sort, they can easily get information that you, not that you, but someone with your similar fingerprint has been around. Also, location guard basically allows you to set your location to wherever you want, in a different country, in a different continent, etc. So that can also be super easy. Revi image search, I won't install it again, but what it does is basically on a right click on any picture, you have reverse image search, and then you can go on all search engines and see what the results might be. Like if you saw a picture online and you want to see some similar pictures or identify people in the picture, then it's super useful. Copyfish, it's OCR tool. Basically, this is how it works. You see a picture, you take this text, you put it in Copyfish. So basically, also on a right click on any picture, you can do Copyfish, and then it extracts the text, and you can also translate it into your own language, or a language that you I don't know, understand better than the language on the screen in this case. Privacy Badger, it's a security feature to block advertisement and trackers. uBlock Origin does a very similar thing, but also blocks scripts. And IP and DNS info, basically, if you put any website name, they're gonna show you the DNS records, or the records that are basically published about the website. In this case, the Share Defense website, it's protected with Cloudflare, so that's basically the only information that you're going to be able to see in this context. It doesn't have any public data. Okay, do we have any questions so far? No? Okay. Another interesting feature in terms of like when you use browsers it's the Google Advanced Search. Basically, the Google Advanced Search that is basically you can access it by going to google.com/advanced-search, and then you have different kind of operations that you can do. For example, find pages that contain all these words, these exact words or phrase, any of these words, none of these words, different numbers. Then you can narrow it down by different specific details like language, region, when it was updated, on which website it was published, or where it is appearing in the title, in the text, URL, in links, file type, is it PDF, is it some sort of script or XML, is it Excel, etc. And then by copyright license. So for example, if I want to look like, I don't know, state budget in PDF, let's see. Yeah, for example, here it should have a PDF file containing something on state budget. This is a very random search. Of course, you can use different kind of search, but this search will basically only bring back PDF files containing the words state budget. If I want to make it more precise, I can of course do it. It works in like the local languages as well. So, and there's also an example here on how to use it. The other part is the Google dorking, or basically different ways to use Google search for things that are more complex for researching, but are also often used by, for example, hackers. For example, and there are many examples here. I'm not encouraging you to use this file. I just want to showcase it with you for educational purposes. I do not encourage the use, of course, accessing system that you're not authorized to access is a crime. But it can be also used in research purposes, and that's the only way I actually endorse in terms of using. Of course, you should not enter anyone's system illegally, but obviously it contains different you can look your backup directories, you can look different sorts of technical files within your information system, and also can research any sort of documents that you need from different websites. But in essence, as I said, you should have strong considerations before using this on third-party websites. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Good. Okay, so this is the end of section 1. And we're basically almost halfway through the presentation. It might be good opportunity for you to ask me something or have a comment. Have you had any experience in this kind of tools? Have you used it? Do you have any experience with OSINT from before? Okay, no. So let's continue with our presentation. Yeah, okay. OSINT and social media. It is important to note that social media are one of the biggest generators of personal data. Of course, security and privacy when using social media is extremely important, and it is very good to have different sort of security measures when researching social media, because in order for you to investigate subjects on social media, in most cases you have to be present on the social media itself, and in that context, of course, you should not have your own picture or first and last name in the user profile, but usually OSINT experts or OSINT specialists create this pseudonym or persona for research that doesn't have any personal details that can be traced back to them, from the picture to the name to the phone number and the contact details, etc. So Facebook has historical relevance when it comes to OSINT, because it was the first major social media platform that was used by many people, thus has an ample of data that can be used. In the past, it was much more convenient and easy for researchers or investigative journalists to basically access data and metadata on Facebook. Now it's slightly harder due to privacy settings and search functionality, even though Meta is not the most renowned protector of privacy of their citizens. In essence, they basically make money out of our data, but they do not allow third-party researchers to access that data. At the same time, importance of understanding the structure of Facebook syntax and how it can be basically set in order to get the exact results that you want. And there is a few resources. Just give me a second to go back to this. Yeah, this is a very useful website for OSINT. It's called Intel Techniques. They also have a very good book on OSINT. I endorse them in terms of the tools that they're teaching are quite good. There are tools for search engines. To start with that, if you want to search one term across different search engines, then this is the easiest way to do it. Then Facebook username, if you find someone's username on Facebook, or if you know a link to their profile, then you can search for all sorts of things related to their publicly available information timeline about employment, education, locations, visit, check-ins, etc. Now there are also like operational searches, Facebook user ID, from which year, posts by that user, videos by that user, then keywords to search for words in their post, then event by location, profiles by employer, profiles by city, post by date, etc. So it's a very complex search tool, but once or twice you try it, you'll find your way around it. It's not super hard to use. Let's see, graph tips. I'm not sure if it still works. Yeah. Yeah, it does. It searches through different sorts of postings. You can search for people by city, school, employer, friends with, dates, and then keywords. So you get a lot. You can use this tool to basically help you search around things on Facebook. Who posted what? Also a very useful tool. I mean, of course, you'll have the presentation and then you can explore around it. There is like, when you here, it's super useful way to find someone's Facebook unique ID, because every Facebook profile has a unique ID. For example, this could be okay, didn't put a good email, a good let's see if it works now. On this one, let's see if it works on this one. Yeah, this is Mark Zuckerberg's ID number. It's number 4. He was the 4th person on Facebook. And then Facebook Ads Library, which is something that is super useful, especially for my team. They use it for monitoring the finances of political campaigns. Let's say if you see some, I don't know, go to report. For example, in Serbia today, these are this is, I think, last day. Yes, this is the entities that spend most money. Naprednjaci, which is basically the ruling party. But for example, if you put like all dates, like all time, you can see that the Serbian Progressive Party and the president of the country, the mayor of Belgrade, have spent basically hundreds of thousands of euros on advertising. This is very interesting because this is the one event that took place. It was a wine fair within the Open Balkans initiative, and they spent like 70,000 euros for that event only. And there's also different political parties that are showcased here. Also, some NGOs as well. But for us, this has been a super important tool to use, because then we can also map different kinds of narratives. They're currently not running any ads, but let's see what's here out of the active. So I don't have any. All right, so let's see what they have. But usually you would get, especially during election campaigns, you would get all the ads, all the posts that they have promoted, and the amount of money that they have put for those particular posts, and the demographics that they have targeted with those concrete posts. Instagram, it's much harder to basically investigate, and the amount of data that you can see on Instagram is very limited. Of course, you can download photos and stories from open or unlocked profiles fairly easily if you use them for any investigative work, or as some sort of let's say evidence for something that you're building. LinkedIn, not always too easy to investigate, but it can be used with Google search or with LinkedIn search too. Usually you use it to see basically the business relationship between people and companies, or between different companies, or between different people. Twitter, and I put this rest in peace on purpose, because Twitter, or X, now has become the most closed network for investigations, even though before Elon Musk bought it, it was the most open one, and we have used it in the past to establish different sorts of let's say connections between astroturfing or bots and political parties. So we did it for a few election cycles, basically mapping out the entire infrastructure that the party in power had in Serbia for their so-called internet team, which was used to basically have a smear campaign against the opposition and then amplify the good words or the positive sentiment about their party leaders, candidates, etc. Yeah. Do you have any questions so far? Okay. Let's move on to personal data. Basically, we are talking for the most part about. Just give me a second. Yeah, have I been pawned? You might have seen this. You might have seen this website before. It basically tells you if your email address has been found in a data breach. I can check mine. Yeah, basically, a breach is any sort of data leak that basically might have exposed your email address or passwords in some cases to a broad number of attackers on the internet. And mine in this context has been part of like 6 different leaks. These are Canva, Trello. These are all pretty big leaks that took place, and a lot of data was published. Here it says what are the data that have leaked: email addresses, names, usernames, dates of birth, genders, geographic location, IP addresses, spoken languages, usernames, etc. So usually when you see that your email address is part of a breach, then you should basically change your passwords. Then a more advanced way to use a similar tool is Dhashed. It is a paid service. I don't know what the price is now. It's for a week it's not super expensive. It's like $6, $5.50 for a week, or like $15 for a month. And when you have like an investigation going on, it's super useful to have this, because it also gives you more detailed information about the data that was leaked. So it also shows you what exact data was leaked. Let's try here. Yeah, I have to log in for this. Yeah, okay. I'm not gonna be logging in here because I have used it for an investigation recently, and there is still some data that I cannot show you. But essentially, it's a bit more advanced tool than Have I Been Pawned, and can be much more useful. Phone numbers, Get Contact, and Truecaller are apps that can be used for on your mobile devices. Like the white pages or the yellow pages in your country can be used obviously for looking for publicly registered numbers. And then Viber can be used. I'm sure that you have done it when you see a number that you don't know, and then you try to save it through Viber or try to call it through Viber. And then if that person has Viber, you can see their the name and the picture that they have set out for themselves. Okay. Do we have any questions so far? No? Okay, we can switch on to information security, which is the last segment of today's presentation, and then we'll obviously have time for some more questions if you have any, or we can finish early as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so the internet, we talked about the internet a lot today. It is a broad space. It's a very digital space, but it's also a very physical space, because the internet as such would never work without this very physical infrastructure. And then it's very hard to even now imagine that this session is taking place through hundreds and hundreds of different cables and devices that are between my screen, the server, the Zoom server, and your screens and your speakers, etc. So it's a very complex infrastructure, yet the way it works is not as complex. It essentially relies on metadata, different data explaining primary data. So my IP address, my email address, all these, my geolocation, all these are metadata that are related to this data transfer that we're having at the moment. They're not part of the data transfer as such, but they're super important or necessary in order to for us to be able to have communication. When it comes to the internet and data, one of the most illustrative examples is the Cambridge Analytica. We are in an election year in the US, so it is, again, a very sensitive topic on how social media, the internet, and publicly available data are being used for basically voter manipulation. But Cambridge Analytica in 2016, when Trump won the first time, was a very clear example on how these OSINT-like techniques can be used in order to manipulate a huge number of voters. Some 320,000 US voters were paid $2 to $5 to take a detailed personality political test that required them to log in with their Facebook account, which means that the app, Facebook first, and then the app as well, collected all their personality / political data that they put. But the app didn't do just that. It also collected the likes and personal information of the friends of the test taker's account. So it was not just the user itself, but it was also their friends. The personality quiz results were paired with their Facebook data, like likes and some psychological or behavioral patterns were analyzed. Then the algorithms were combined with other sources such as voter records. This was used to create a superior set of records with some 2 million people in 11 key states with hundreds of data points per person. So this amounted to some 50 million people's data being processed in a way, and these individuals were all targeted with highly personalized ads based on this analysis. It is a very dangerous technique. It is also pretty illegal technique. A similar technique was used by the same company, actually, for the Brexit campaign, and this is a very clear example on how the use of the existence of surveillance capitalism basically emphasizes this sort of populistic oriented approach to politics. Of course, this is not the only problem when it comes to information security or cybersecurity. Malware also is an important component there too. So distribution of malicious software or infecting different devices is an issue. Phishing, and especially when you start engaging into OSINT investigations and you use different kind of tools and you expect different kind of emails from people that you contact, like sources, etc., you are much more prone to be attacked by a phishing attack. An email that looks fairly legit will have examples a bit further, but the purpose of the phishing is to basically gather your data, or financial data, personal data, or technical, like login data and passwords and things like that. Next, we have DDoS attacks, basically massive attacks that basically have the goal to sabotage the work of a server. They were quite popular in Serbia in 2013, 14, 15, like 10 years ago. They were used to basically make websites unavailable once they publish a story that was not favorable for the government of the day. Then there is the man in the middle attack, basically the interception of communication, and that is why it is important to use HTTPS and protect the communication or your activities online, because what can be the outcome is basically sometimes and in recent times quite often actually, people might get infected with ransomware attacks, where the attacker expects you to pay some money in order encrypts your document, and then asks for some money for them to decrypt your documents. Another kind of attacks is basically creating botnets. By infecting your device, it can be used to carry out other types of attacks like DDoS and similar attacks. This is an example of a spam email or a phishing email. Basically, it contains an attachment that carries the malware, and this is a very common way how people are infected. It can also be, it doesn't have to be an attachment, it can also be a link that you click, and then your device is either infected right away, or you get a window, like Visa window, to put in your username or password, or like fake Google login page. Yeah, we are talking about SSL or HTTP versus HTTPS. So basically what's happening is that if it's HTTP, the identity of the website cannot be confirmed, and the connection between you and that website is very it's basically open text, so it's visible to anyone. Whereas if it's HTTPS, you can be sure that in most cases that the identity of the website is accurate, and then on the other side that basically the connection between you and that server is encrypted. It is important to often update and use the latest version of softwares that you're using, so that all security patches that have been implemented are implemented in your copy as well. Have strong passwords, change them often, keep them private, and never share them with anyone. For that, KeePass, a very useful password manager, can help you. Also, LastPass is quite good as well. I'm sure you've heard of those. It can be used to securely store passwords in a database, and then that database is locked with the master password. Of course, Tor, it can be used for different things, including the so-called dark web or dark net or deep web. It's basically a bit updated or fixed Firefox browser that has the possibility to connect within its own network of relays and keep you anonymous online. And I mean, Tor is more of an anonymity than security tool, but it can be quite widely used in OSINT research as well. Good. This is all I have prepared in terms of presentation. Now I want to hear some questions from you, or any comments or feedback or anything that you want to discuss on this topic. do you have any questions about ongoing things that you're doing at the moment, or anything? Okay. Do you need me to, Maya, do you need me to repeat or reflect on particular issues that seemed unclear? Maya Borčić, I see the comment now. Sorry for being too fast.
Okay.
Good.
Everything is clear. So yes, as Tarek said, if you have any questions, you can ask them in chat or the Q&A box, or you can raise your hand and we will let you speak. Yes, I think it was already said in the chat that the recording will be shared. I guess it was all clear, Andrej. Yeah, we will share the recording and the resources mentioned. So if you have any comments or questions, we have a little time now. Otherwise, you can always reach out to us or to Andrej.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. I hope everything was clear. Feel free to reach out to me if you have ongoing investigations and have specific questions related to your investigation, because it's always easier to understand the concepts when you have a practical issue at hand. Yeah, my email address is in the presentation. I'm going to share the presentation with the Media Center Sarajevo team, so someone will send it from their side.
Yes, definitely. Yes, here it says everything was clear and very useful.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that.
Message. Okay. Well, okay, we have a question in Q&A. It says, I'm a filmmaker and had been waiting for the Sora AI announcement, but most likely it would be extremely expensive. Do you by chance have any alternative?
Well, there are many, even like Canva nowadays has basically video generating capabilities, and there are many similar tools that have some sort of video generating capabilities, but Sora is something that has been marketed as next level video, like artificial intelligence that can produce very realistic videos. Unfortunately, I don't know anyone who has tested it out in real time. I have only seen the ad and people online that have tested it or supposedly tested it. It will probably be quite pricey in the beginning, but it's like that with generative AI. After a few months, there's going to be probably fairly good alternatives, like with ChatGPT and all the other ones. So yeah, as far as I know, I don't know a single person who has tested Sora. So I'm not even sure that the capabilities that they're advertising are realistic to the full extent, if you understand what I mean. Because for me, it felt a bit like overinflated advertising video that was produced. Let's see what happens. I'm always a bit skeptical until I test the product myself, you know.
Hope that answers your question, Edvan. Do we have any more? Okay, I think everything was clear. a lot of messages in the chat saying it was a useful presentation. I certainly found it very interesting. Thank you, Andrej. And yes, we will share this this recording and the presentation. There is one last minute question as well. Do you have any advice how we can use AI for investigation?
Yeah, I mean, you can use it at different stages. Obviously, using ChatGPT Plus, which is like the most common, let's say, general purpose AI that's used in this kind of things. You can often use it to research things online, but also to connect different kind of information. For example, the data analytics part can be very useful for data transformations, and my team has used it often for when you have two big data sets and you need to merge them, for example, or have them cleaned or refined or analyze some trends in that kind of like we have found it useful for data manipulation. On the other side, there is the challenge of the accuracy. So it's not always obviously 100% accurate. So unfortunately, it cannot replace a person in that sense. So of course, you cannot avoid the human component, but it can make things that are like repetitive, what is called in like the local language pešački posao, or like manual work, can be replaced with AI, and that has been helpful. For example, when we analyzed Facebook advertising during the campaign in Serbia, it was super useful because there was thousands of different ads. So for example, like making a list of the I don't know, top 10 most used words in ads, it was used for that kind of operational tasks. Or for example, when we analyzed media content, because we had over 12,000 different media titles, also for this quantitative part of the work, it was good. When it comes to quality analysis or qualitative research, then we have found it a bit less accurate and a bit less useful. So we cannot rely yet on AI when it comes to maybe it's also connected to the language difference. Maybe in English it would have worked better, but in Serbian, in our concrete case, it was not great when it came to understanding the actual meaning of the word. It was good to like count the number of times a certain word is mentioned or a certain politician is mentioned with in different variations, like singular, plural, different tenses, etc. In that it was good, but in like understanding the meaning, it doesn't really work much. I hope I answered that question.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Maya says that was the information she was looking for.
Okay.
Do we have more questions? Comments? Mm-hmm. Okay. Then we're going to wrap up this online session. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you, Andrej, for the very interesting and useful presentation. As we said, feel free to contact us if you have any questions about the topic, and we hope to see you soon in another masterclass.
Thank you for inviting me, and thank you all for your patience and focus during this presentation. Take care. Have a nice day.
Bye.
Bye.